Sports at 5, a former Wells Fargo senior vice president is accusing her manager of raping her while she was impaired during a business trip here to Bakersfield. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Rochelle Murcia.
And I'm Stacey Rasmussen. David Kaplan spoke to her attorney, who says Wells Fargo did not respond legally when she reported the sexual misconduct. He joins us now live in front of the hotel where this all allegedly happened. David.
The former Wells Fargo employee thought she was going to Bakersfield and the Padre Hotel for a normal business trip, but instead she was sexually assaulted. Ron Zambrano, attorney for Jane Doe, who does not want her real name to be identified, says his client was a senior vice president for Wells Fargo in Los Angeles.
In January 2020, she went to, her and four other people from Wells Fargo went to visit the wealthy potential clients and current clients over in Bakersfield.
Before that trip, she says there was problems with one of her managers, Eric Pagel.
He was very open about talking and objectifying about women. He was very open about talking and objectifying my client, which my client, she was even invited to his Lake Tahoe house without their respective families.
Jane Doe, her superiors, co-workers, and clients were at dinner. She and another female went to the restroom. When she was gone, Pagel and other men took her personal belongings and took pictures on her cell phone and took her keys and hotel room keys. That evening, Pagel allegedly came to her room. Jane Doe says she was drunk.
That evening, she ends up being sexually raped by Mr. Pagel. She wakes up very hazy and confused. She confronts him a couple days later, and he confirms it. It's like, yeah, we had sex, and I knew you were drunk. Of course, she was very shocked. She kind of brought it up a few weeks later to her direct report, Mr. Fitzel, who was also at the same evening, who kind of brushed it off like, yeah, why don't you not make yourself a point of interest, right? Like, this is your fault.
Zambrano says everyone around her acted as if nothing happened. She spoke to Wells Fargo's formal channels in November 2020. They did nothing. Zambrano's office filed an EOC, U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission complaint.
Through my office, we filed an EEOC complaint. So when the federal government put a microscope on them, all of a sudden they started doing some interviews and asking for information. But 8 months later, in July 2021, the investigation was still happening at Wells Fargo.
He says on top of the accused rape, how her manager David Witzel did nothing, and the slow Wells Fargo investigation, there was a history with Pagel.
In the course of the interview process that was kind of with the EOC over them, it comes out that there were potentially other women that complained about Eric Pagel before.
Zambrano says had Wells Fargo dealt with Pagel when other complaints were made about him, the alleged rape to Jane Doe would have never happened. I reached out to Wells Fargo and have not yet heard back. In downtown Bakersfield, David Kaplan, Eyewitness News.